How many people do you know who are living the life of their dreams? I mean the kind of life that's full of excitement and fulfillment and joy, and it's what they truly wanted and created for themselves. How many? Not many? Maybe even none? Okay, well, I don't want that to be you. I want you to be able to create the life that you want. I feel like the more people there are in the world who can do this, the better off we will all be. And so that's why in this video, I'm going to give you the 7 steps to take to create anything you want in life. Whether that's a 4-hour work week, having the career of your dreams, earning a certain sum of money every year, finding the love of your life, whatever it may be, these 7 steps are the things to do to get you there. I'm Monica Valentine, and I'm a life purpose and career coach. For 20 years, I looked for my life purpose because I felt like there was something bigger that I wanted to do with my life. I didn't want to live a cookie cutter lifestyle. I wanted a life of freedom, travel, adventure, purpose, and meaning. And I'm so happy to tell you that today I've created that lifestyle for myself. The 7 things that I'm going to share with you in this video, I used in creating that life for myself. And you can use it to create anything that you want. So let's dig into what those are exactly. Step 1 is to have crystal clear self-awareness. Now you might be thinking, I know exactly who I am. I can skip that step. I'll just skip that step. I know what I want. I have a list. Okay, but before you go any further, I really want you to test these things that you think you want. And here's the reason why. Society, the world at large, gives us these ideas of what a good life looks like, of what we're supposed to want, of what's desirable, okay? This comes from the media, it comes from our friends and even our families. So as children, a lot of times we receive these messages and we've gone our entire lives thinking that that's what we want, but we actually haven't tested it. And so when you're thinking about the things that you think you want, remember that there's always a trade-off, okay? So for example, let's say that you wanted to be a multimillionaire. Now, most people would say that they would love to have that kind of money, but let's put the idea of winning the lottery aside and consider what it would be like to actually work to create that kind of wealth. Sure, there's benefits to it. You know, you could travel anywhere you wanted in the world, you could have the beautiful things that you want, the fancy cars, the house, what have you. But the trade-offs, potentially, are missing out on the close connections and building the friendships and the love that you have with your friends and family, for example. Now, that's not necessarily always the case, but it seems to be a pretty obvious trade-off, potentially, for the kind of work and focus that would go into creating a life of wealth. Now, if one of your top values is connection with the people that you love, then creating wealth would be counter to that. You would be giving up a large part of what you value in life, and so therefore it's not an ideal path. Now, this goes straight into the idea of what a true north life is. As a career coach and as a life purpose coach, my business is called True North Life. And why is that? Well, True North on a magnetic compass guides you in accurately getting to your destination. And in life, a lot of times we get confused by all of the messages that we're receiving and by the things that we think we want. And so sorting through it and knowing your values and the things that I'm going to share with you in this video is going to help you to find your true north so that you can get to your ultimate destination, the one that's like the most perfect fit you could ever imagine. Now, granted, there's many ways to live a life that is fulfilling to you. We're going to figure out what that is, and then you can narrow it down into creating something that you truly, truly want. In getting clear about who you are and what you want, there's 3 questions I want you to ask yourself and really think about it. The first question is, what am I really good at? I'm talking about the things that you probably even dismiss because you're so good at it that you just assume that everyone else is. Now, the things that come the most easily to you that you take for granted, those are going to be the things that you are truly gifted at. So if you can't figure out what that is because you're so blind to it, which is, highly likely, there's a lot of us, myself included, that are easily able to dismiss our gifts. Just go ahead and ask people who you know, who have known you for a very long time, who are close to you and see you clearly. Ask them what they think your strongest gifts are and make a list. And the second thing that I want you to ask yourself is, what do you love to do? What could you do day in and day out and not get tired of it? What would you do even if you were not going to be paid for it, right? What would you pay someone to be able to do? Make a list of those things. So when you look at what you're really good at and what you really enjoy doing, sometimes you're going to find that the two do not align. So maybe you're really good at something, but you don't enjoy doing it. If that's the case, and you're creating a lifestyle where that aspect of that skill is necessary, then maybe eventually that's something you can hire out. Or perhaps it's even a deal breaker. If it's a deal breaker, scratch it off the list and keep going and looking at the things that you love to do and that you're really good at. Now, the third thing that I want you to look at is, what are your top values? Now, don't limit yourself to the standard moral values that we all are instilled with as children, like honesty and friendship and loyalty, okay? I want you to think beyond those things, and you can add those to your list. But there's other things outside of the moral standard values that can be considered values that are really important for you to know that you possess in creating your ideal lifestyle. Some examples are a value of having freedom, a value for travel or beauty or self-expression. Check the notes in this video, and I'm going to leave a link that will give you a list of all kinds of values so that you can go through them and figure out what yours are. A lot of times what you're going to find is that these things have repeated themselves throughout the course of your life. So you'll be able to look back even to your childhood and see how you valued these things. When you see that something is a thread that goes that far back in your life, that goes that deep and to your core, those are going to typically be your top values. And I want you to circle those or make a star by those on your list so that you place more relevance on those when you're really crafting your vision for the life that you want. We're going to get into vision in just a little while, but let's move on in the meantime to step 2, the second thing that you need to do to create the life that you want. And that is to have courage and sheer determination. Here's why. As you're creating the life that you really want, you're going to run into obstacles, and those obstacles oftentimes will be self-imposed. It's going to be fear and self-doubt, and you will probably also run into some limiting beliefs that hold you back potentially from staying the course. And that's why it's so critical to, before you even begin, look at what those potential pitfalls are so that you can shore those up and at least be aware of them when you run into them in the process. Let's talk about the fear part of things. Fear is oftentimes stemming from something that happened to us in the past that we look upon as a negative experience. So for example, if you have a fear of speaking, maybe it stems from the time when you were in a school play when you were a kid and you messed up your lines and then everyone laughed and you were completely mortified. Okay, knowing where our fear comes from is the first step to knocking it down ever so slightly. And so let's look at what you fear. What are the things that might potentially hold you back from pursuing this lifestyle or whatever it is that you're trying to create? Make a list of those fears and look at them individually and ask yourself these 3 questions. Where does the fear come from? What's the worst case scenario? And what positive thing can you do if this thing happened? When you look at the worst case scenario, ask yourself, is it even possible that this could happen? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's an irrational fear. And if it's not an irrational fear and there is a possibility that this could happen, Then the third question comes into play. What can I do to ease the discomfort of that if it ever were to happen? Come up with a list of positive things that you could do to ease the pain or the stress that might be involved if that worst case scenario were to happen. Having answers to these 3 things is very helpful to knock down the fear ever so slightly, and it also gives you a sort of a game plan if the worst case scenario were to happen. And it allows you to realize that if it did, you would be okay. That there are things that you could do to make it okay, and that you would live through it, and it's not a do or die situation. Now, granted, there's probably still going to be some fear around whatever it is that you're evaluating in terms of what you fear, but what you can do to further help yourself along is to take a small step in the direction of knocking down that fear even more by taking action. And for example, an action step for a fear of public speaking would be to go to a networking function where people stand up and introduce themselves, and stand up and give a 1 to 2 minute spiel about who you are and why you're there. And that's a small step towards public speaking. It will be scary if that is a fear of yours, but when you're done, you'll have gotten yourself that much closer to becoming more comfortable with the process. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you will get, and the better you'll get at it. And then before you know it, you've developed some skill in the area and some self-confidence in that area, and then the fear starts to diminish. Now let's look at the other part of the challenges that you might face in creating your dream lifestyle, and that is limiting beliefs. A limiting belief is usually a negative thought that we have about ourselves or about people in general or the world at large, and they hold us back in life. So how do you know if you have a limiting belief? Well, it shows up in your language. So perk your ears for comments like, I can't do that because, or I won't do that because. For example, I can't earn a good living as an artist. I won't be able to make that happen because. So when you hear those things, you know there's a limiting belief at play. Now I want to ask you, what are your limiting beliefs? Let's work on those together. Leave a comment below and let's see what all limiting beliefs we share and how we can help each other in the comment section. Everyone be nice, and let's all create a sense of community for each other here. I really want this channel to be a place where we can have a dialogue about what we're trying to create and what we're running up against, and let's all just be a support network for one another. So I really would love to hear from you. Leave that comment below now. Okay, did you leave that comment? Okay, let's look at how to get rid of that limiting belief, or the many that you might have. There's 2 ways that you can squash a limiting belief. One of them is to take action. So for going back to that example where, there might be a fear of public speaking, we might have a limiting belief that we're a terrible public speaker or that we're terribly shy. And so one of the things that we can do is to take action in the opposite direction of that. So if we think that we're very shy, then an action step might be, I'm going to go to that networking event and I'm going to speak. Even though I'm shy, I'm going to do this little thing. And again, the more you do these little things, the closer you'll get to eliminating that limiting belief. It's very similar to fear. However, this one is more a very well-ingrained mindset about who we are, what the world at large is about. You get it. The second thing to do to get rid of those pesky limiting beliefs is to work on your mindset. Now, I know that's easier said than done, but when you go back to that same old internal dialogue of, I can't make a living as an artist, for example, I want you to look at other people who have done it, maybe even artists who, if you are an artist, similar to you, for example, see the wins that people have had. Maybe they started with the same means. Maybe they have had this, similar challenges. And I want you to show yourself by looking at these people's stories that it can be done, and that a limiting belief is really only something that you place on yourself that holds you back. And once you stop placing that on yourself, you're free. You are free to go forth and make it happen. How exciting is that? And another thing that you can do to work on your mindset is just to flip the dialogue. So if you hear yourself saying, I can't do that, ask yourself instead, how can I do that? Make a list and then start working it. Start working that list. And every time you hear that same dialogue, I can't do that, remind yourself, yes, I can, and here's how. Here's my list. Here's how I'm gonna make it happen. Okay, now let's look at the third thing to do to create the life or the circumstances that you most definitely want. And that is to have a vision. Having a vision gives you a very clear picture of what your ultimate dreams, desires, and goals are. And it's going to help you to overcome those fears and limiting beliefs, obstacles that we just talked about. So the more you can paint a beautiful picture of what it is that you're trying to create, the more fuel you have for the fire, that when the going gets tough, you can fan those flames. There's two parts to creating a vision, and that is number one, knowing exactly what you want. And we kind of touched on that in step one. And here in step three, we're really honing that vision. You already know what it is that you value, what you're good at, what you love to do. Now, how can you integrate those things into a vision for the kind of lifestyle or circumstances that you want to create? Step two is knowing why you want to create it. Having your motivations very solid and clear in your head it's going to keep you moving forward every day. It's going to get you out of bed. It's going to keep you excited, and it's going to have you say hell no to that fear monster whenever it comes up. And everyone has about 2 to 10 motivations. So go ahead and make a list of what it is that really drives you. In my own journey, my motivation, my top motivation in life, or even I would say it's my top value in life, is freedom. And so knowing that I had freedom as a top value, I knew that I wanted to create a life that would allow me to live and work from anywhere in the world. And so that was my big vision. And other motivations that I have that stem from freedom are travel and adventure and opportunity. And so you can see how your motivations can inform other motivations. So look at what your top values are and see where the motivations are in that. And you're going to find so many reasons to stay the course. When you're creating your vision, there's 3 things that really need to align in order for you to have a solid jumping off point. And those are for your head, your heart, and your gut to align around this vision. All 3 of these things need to be fully on board for you to have the most potential for creating what it is that you want. So now I want you to ask yourself, what are the benefits of achieving this goal? How will your life be positively impacted if you achieve it? And what will you miss out on if you don't achieve this goal? These 3 things are the keys to your head, heart, and gut check. And now that you have all of these things in place with your vision in mind, the 4th thing that you need to do to create anything you want in life is to have a game plan. Now that you know what it is that you want, it's time to really get down to the nitty-gritty. Any good game plan starts with a SMART goal. You might have heard this before. It's an acronym. S stands for specific, M is measurable, A is achievable, R is realistic, and T is timely. What is specific? Specific is I want to create a life of where I can live and work from anywhere in the world with a online marketing business. Measurable, for example, is I want to have 7 clients for my online marketing business every month. Let's look at achievability now. Is it achievable? Are you good at online marketing? Do you know how to use a computer? Simple questions that are going to give you a distinct yes or no, I can do this. Now let's look at, is it realistic? An example of that is, let's say that you want to be an opera singer, but you can't sing. Or maybe you want to be an NBA player and you're 50 years old, right? These things are not realistic, unfortunately. And then time sensitive is a very specific date that you would like to have accomplished this goal by. So when you're putting your SMART goal together, it's just going to be one quick sentence that you can look at and easily digest and remember. So for example, I am creating an online marketing business where I'll have 7 clients a month and I will achieve this by this date. Step 5 in creating the life or situation of your dreams is to do research. It sounds boring, I know, or at least it sounds boring to me, but it is a very important step. There are going to be things in creating this life that you want that you just don't know perhaps. You need to look at all of the angles. What are the things that you need to be aware of? What do you need to understand? Go ahead and dig out your library card and start checking out books or buying them online. Get Kindle books. I remember when I started my business, I had no idea what I was doing. I had never really had a real business. I had dabbled a little bit and I certainly didn't have a degree in business. So I went ahead and got an Audible membership. And the reason why I loved that is because I'm always doing something and I always want to feel like I'm being productive. So when I was cleaning the house or getting dressed for the day, I would be learning at the same time. So always keep learning. I want to task you with that right now. If you want to create a life, like just the most beautiful, extraordinary life, always keep learning. Your job is never done. Learning is never done. In your research, other things that you can do other than, listening to audios or reading books is to go out and go to networking situations where they're focusing on a topic that's important to the creation of what you're trying to do. So you're going to meet people who have gone ahead of you and done the things that you're wanting to do, and they'll have information for you that can help speed your process to getting towards that goal. And even better yet, potentially, they can put you in line with opportunities and possibilities that you never would have otherwise had. And that is another leap or step ahead so much quicker than you could do on your own. And then obviously, when you're doing your research, you can go online and start looking for industry publications or even blogs by authorities in that area. And you can even join forums that are specific to that topic. Post your questions in the forums and you'll definitely get answers and perspectives that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten just by reading a book. Okay guys, we're almost there, so stick with me. Let's look at the 6th thing you need to do to create that awesome life. And that is to test it out. For this step, ask yourself, what is one small action I can take today in the direction of my dream? What's one thing that I can do that's fun, enjoyable, easy, and every day ask yourself that question. What can I do today to move the needle ever so slightly in the direction of where I'm going? The thing about creating something really big and exciting and fulfilling, that kind of beautiful life that we're talking about, or beautiful circumstances, is that it is a change from what you already know and experience. That's why we want it. We want that change. We want a big shift in our life, a big, beautiful, positive shift. And change does not happen overnight. These things don't just come together so quickly. We look at people and the things that they accomplish and think, oh, they're so lucky. Look at what they've accomplished. They're an overnight success. But the reality is that you didn't see what happened before. You didn't see that that person didn't have skills before in that area, or that person had fears that they came up against, limiting beliefs, people telling them that they couldn't do it, but they stuck it out anyway. And that's why they've achieved what they have. And so just, I want you to be aware that this is not going to be easy, and it's okay. Because if it's something that is in your head and your heart and your gut, and you know it aligns with your values and who you are and what you want, you will stay the course. You will absolutely do what it takes, because it's just what you're about. So in that process of being tenacious as hell to create that life that you want, you're going to make little tests along the way. And this is going to serve a couple of purposes, okay? The first purpose is that it's going to show you that it really is truly what you're going for. It is really what you want. If you don't know that yet, if you're not entirely sure if your head, heart, and gut are aligned, these little tests will let you know. Don't be fooled though, along the way of these little tests, you will be tested with fear and limiting beliefs. The fact that those are present doesn't mean that this is not your ideal path. That's not at all what it means. On the contrary, it more than likely means that you are on the right path, because the bigger your dream or goal, and by big I mean the more benefit you stand to gain from it, the scarier it is to think that you could fail at it. Now, that leads me to the second point of testing it out. And that is, these little tests are designed to give you small wins along your journey, but also you're going to fail a little bit along the way, or maybe even a lot, and that's okay. Because failure is not actually failure at all. It's just a learning curve. We didn't all start out knowing how to do the things that we know how to do today. Okay, we've made it. It's the final step that you need to have the life that you want, and that is to master skills. When you're creating something that you've never done before, there's going to be some skills in there that you need that you might not already have. So for example, if you were to create a business, you would need to have skills in marketing, networking, sales, maybe website development. Make a list of the things that you will need to create the life that you want and start working on them. What are the top 1 to 3 things that will most benefit you in achieving that goal? And then start working on them every day. Now, I know I've just given you a long list of things to do. Remember that this is a process, and in creating the beautiful, extraordinary, fulfilling life that you want, it's going to take time. But if it's really worth it to you, it won't matter, because the process itself is going to be hopefully enjoyable. I want you to enjoy this process, because this is you unfolding into another version of yourself, into another life. When you start from where you're at with all of these challenges and questions and skills that need to be developed, you're eventually, as you go along your journey, you're going to grow into something more extraordinary than you could have imagined. And the journey itself, outside of having achieved that goal, outside of the benefits of that goal, is going to be so profound, because it has made you into something better than you started off as. And that's not to say that you're not great as you are, but large strides in growth are large strides in growth, and they are very, very good things. So if you made it all the way to the end of this video, then I know you are one of my tribe. You really want to have a life of just an extraordinary life. You want to better yourself. And that is awesome. That is so awesome to me. And so I want you to please join my little community that I'm starting and hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be posting a new video every single week to help you live your best life. Thank you for sticking around. I'll talk to you soon.